So now we are covering the steps solving the case study, and so the next step is after ascertaining the explicit period, estimating the future cash flow for the firm in this case, estimating the growth rate. As I said earlier, and please remember, in the examination, most of the informations are readily available to you. You only need to plug them together and get your outcome. Because if a detailed case study is given to you with so much of complexity, you would spend too much of time and you will not have the time for answering other questions. So, but remember, you need to understand the linkages. That is very, very crucial. And then determining the cost of capital. So in this case, what we are doing, we are solving this case using the cash flow for the firm. Yeah. So free cash flow for the firm, and we understand. So if it is free cash flow for the firm, the discounting has to be with the WACC. So you would have noticed information has been given to you in the case study itself. You only need to plug it together and find out as to what is going to be my WACC. So when we come to the case study solving, that time we would also look at how to arrive at the figure of WACC. So that is your cost of capital. Once you do that, then of course you do the computation of the explicit period value and the terminal value. So that is what you will need to do. So now you have the figure of cash flow. In this case, FCFF. You have the figure of free cash flow for the firm for all the years. You also have the discounting factor. That means you also have the cost of capital. That means in this case, you also have the rate of WACC. So now what you need to do, you need to discount the cash flow with the rate of discounting, and this will give you your present value of the future cash flows. Now at this point in time, remember, you will need to make certain adjustments. So we would also look at, because in this case study I have given one adjustment, we will also do that adjustment. So after doing the adjustment, you will arrive at the enterprise value of the firm. So once you make the adjustment, in this case you will arrive at the figure of the enterprise value. Now how do you convert the enterprise value in terms of equity value? Very simple. From the figure of enterprise value, you need to minus the figure of debt of the company. So remember, what is the enterprise value? Enterprise value is equity value plus debt value. Together is enterprise value. So if you have the figure of enterprise value, you minus from the figure of enterprise value the figure of debt. And then what you get in your hand is your equity value. And again, in this equity value, you may have to make certain adjustment about the control premium. Now at this point in time, friends, I would like to mention here, how do you make the adjustment for the control premium? First of all, please remember, control premium adjustment cannot be done unilaterally, and I'm sure you will understand what do I mean. So if there has to be a control premium, or if there has to be a discount for DLOM and DLOC that we discussed the other day, if there is any such adjustment is to be done, this adjustment, friends, cannot be done unilaterally. It has to be agreed mutually between the parties. Only when both the parties agree, then only you can incorporate the DLOM, that is discount for lack of marketing, or DLOC, that is discount for lack of control. So it cannot be done arbitrarily. It cannot be done at the discretion of the valuer. So because see, you may include on your own DLOM or DLOC or the control premium, but when your report goes to your client says, no, I don't want this. You just do the valuation as it is. How are you concerned as to whether there's a DLOM or DLOC? You can recommend it to the client, but you cannot force it. So because ultimately, remember, DLOM and DLOC or the control premium is something which has to be agreed between the buyer and the seller. So what you can do, depending on what has been agreed between the buyer and the seller, adjustment for the DLOM, DLOC or control premium can be done in two ways. One, it can be adjusted in the discounting rate itself. Secondly, it can be adjusted in the final value that you arrive at. But remember, it is always linked to the discussion, negotiation between the buyer and the seller. So you make the adjustment for the valuation or for control premium in case if it is agreed between the buyer and seller, and in case if the adjustment has already not been done in the discount rate. Yes, Sanjay, you have a question?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. So this is what we would.
Sir, I have a little bit question, sir.
Yes,
Sir,
Ankit.
sir, control premium and DLOC and DLOM.
Huh.
Sir, when I put in the WhatsApp, sir, I was not able to understand the sir, whole linking of sir all the figures.
Okay.
Control premium, yeah, and
Okay, Ankit, not to worry, not to worry. Just make a small note of this question in your notebook, because we have discussed it already on our session earlier. But don't worry, just write it down on a piece of paper. Today, before after we close this session, you can just be with me for 2-3 minutes. I will explain to you at that time. So don't worry about it. And it is very simple. It is very simple. Not to worry. Not to worry. All right. Now, since we are doing the calculation of free cash flow for the firm, let me quickly take you back to our discussion sometime back about how do you arrive at the figure of free cash flow for firm. So you start with the net income, and please remember, it can be net income. You call it net income, you call it EAT, you call it PAT, you call it net profit. They all mean the same thing. So you write whatever you want, but ultimately, so you start with the net income, which is profit after tax. So and then you add NCC, and what is NCC? Non-cash cost. And we all understand what is non-cash cost. A quick refreshing: non-cash cost is your depreciation and your amortization. So you take that figure. Then you add the interest, and after adding the interest, then you make adjustment for change in the working capital. And please understand why change in the working capital. If your working capital has increased by 25 crores, it means what? It means 25 crores of your free cash is already consumed. And if it is already consumed, that means this cash is not available to you. So that is why you will minus it. But in case if your working capital has gone down by 10 crore, that means what? That means you have a 10 crore of cash available from the disposal of your working capital. So that 10 crore of cash is available with you. So you will add it here. So that is what you will. That is what you will do for the working capital. Yes. Okay. Who is this?
Devang.
Yes, Devang.
The repayment of loan and fixed capital expenditure is the same treatment, right?
No, Devang. Remember, what you are doing at this point in time. You are computing cash flow for the firm, and therefore the loan will not come here. Loan will not come here. Loan will come where? Loan will come in case of FCFE. So in case of FCFE, the benefit of the loan is going to be available in case of the FCFE to the equity holder. So loan will come only when you are doing the computation for future cash flow for equity, not when you are doing the computation for the future cash flow for the firm. So you will not do any adjustment on account of the loan here.
So investment in fixed asset and loan repayment are two different things.
Yes, of course, of course.
Don't get it confused there.
No, they are totally different actually. Totally different. Totally different. Repayment is you are paying the loan back, and invest capex is you are purchasing new assets.
Okay.
All right, good. And remember, always remember, and you must always remember, when you are doing the discounting of FCFF, free cash flow for firm, discounting has to be by WACC. And why discounting has to be by WACC? Because FCFF is free cash available for all the stakeholders. So if the FCFF is the free cash flow available for all the stakeholders. The cost of capital, the discounting rate, also has to comprise of all the stakeholders. So that is what is you will do the discounting. All right. Now, friends, with this understanding, you have the case study with you, all of you. You all have the case soft copy with you in your computer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Excellent, excellent. So remember, you will have to give me the figures. I will explain the entire process as to how do we solve a case study based on the discounted cash flow method using free cash flow for firm. I will explain you the entire process. You will keep on telling me the figures as and when I will ask you, and this way it will also ensure that every one of you is completely on board. Every one of you is completely engaged and connected with this entire discussion for solving this case study. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to the Excel sheet. And in the Excel sheet, we would be solving this case study. And let me see where it is. And here is the all right, so here it is. Can you see it on the screen, friends?
Right.
Very good, very good. So what and I think it should be visible to every one of you. Is it visible? Do I need to increase the font size?
No, it's visible.
Because the problem is, if I increase the font size, then the size that we can see reduces. Okay, right, friends. So first let me explain to you what are the steps, and then we will solve it together. So the first thing that you need to do, friends, find out the profitability computation. Right. So and remember again, once again, I would like to mention it. Please remember, in case of the exam that you have, fortunately, most of the information will be made available to you in the form of the case study itself. You only need to understand the linkages between different things. So what I am explaining to you now, I am explaining to you is the linkages, so that you are able to use those information without any challenge. So you start with your computation of your profitability. So what you do here, you start with the figure of EBITDA, and from the EBITDA you minus the depreciation. What you get is your EBIT, and from the EBIT you minus the interest, and what you get is your EBT, and from the EBT you deduct the tax, which is 25%, and what you get is your net income, which is going to be the starting point for your computation of free cash flow for the firm. So that is step number 1. Step number 2, now you come to the interest computation. So what I will do, friends, we will start solving it together, and automatically step by step it will keep on revealing, and you will keep on connecting. Don't hesitate to ask me a question at any point in time. Any doubt that you have about anything that we are discussing, please ask me the question, because let your doubts be clarified here and now itself, so that you don't carry them. And I really want you to go fully confident about solving these case studies. Remember, my experience and the experience of so many people, your ability to crack a case study in the exam is going to be the match winner. And I want to have all of you to have that weapon of solving the case studies. All right, friends, so let's start, and this is what we do. So we start with the figure of EBITDA. So it has been given in the case study that the EBITDA for the year 2019-20 was how much?
So 300 CR.
300 CR. And this is supposed to be increasing at what rate, Ankit?
Sir, 15%.
15%. So what I am going to do, I am going to increase this. This is my EBITDA for year 2021. Is that clear to everybody? Everyone.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, okay, friends, here on, when I ask you a question, is it clear to everybody? If none of you respond immediately, I will assume that you have understood it actually. In any case, at any point in, okay, what I will do, I will not ask you. In case you have a doubt, you please interrupt me and ask me the question. So if you are not asking me question, I will assume that you are totally following it. Fantastic. So this is my EBITDA for year 1, that is 2021. And what do I need to do? Because I know that during the explicit forecast period of 5 years, my EBITDA is increasing at the rate of 15%. So what I will do is I will again multiply this 1.15, and this becomes my EBITDA for the second year, and I will just simply drag it. This becomes my EBITDA for the subsequent years. And remember, now what do I do for the terminal period? My growth rate for the terminal period is 6%. That means after the cessation of explicit forecast period, my cash flow during the terminal period is supposed to increase at the rate of 6%. Am I right, Ankit?
Right.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes.
Good.
Yes.
So what I will do, I will simply multiply this with 1.06. So this becomes my cash flow for the start of the terminal period. Very good. Now I come to the depreciation. It has been given in the case study that the asset is worth 1000 crore, and it is going to be depreciated over a period of 10 years. So therefore I will have a depreciation of 100 crore every year. So this is what I would drag, and my depreciation for the beginning of the terminal period also is going to be 100 crore. Okay, is that fine to everyone? Good. And now what I do is I will need to find out my EBIT. How do I find out my EBIT? From the EBITDA.
Terminal period is till the end. So the asset will be fully depreciated. So it should be 500, no? Balance amount.
No, Venkat. That's a good question, Venkat. That's a good question, but no.
Because terminal period you are taking it to the end of the project. So
No.
the balance 500 will go off.
Okay. So Venkat, just hold on to this question. I will answer it. Okay. I will answer it. I will answer it with a reason as to why it cannot be 500 crore, why it has to be 100 crore only. I will explain. Just be on that question, not to worry about it. Now we need to find out the EBIT. So how do I find out the EBIT? Is very simple. EBITDA minus the depreciation. So this is what I will do. From 345 I minus the 100, and here I get my EBIT. And what do I need to do? I need to okay, I'm just trying to unmute some microphones so that there are no disturbances. Okay, so I will simply, what I do, I simply drag it, and when I drag it, this is what I will get my EBIT for all the years including the terminal period. Now what I need the figure of interest. So it has been given in the case study that there is no working capital finance availed by the company. The company has managed the working capital with its own money. So there is no borrowing on account of working capital. Since there is no borrowing on account of working capital, there is no interest on account of working capital. But the company has taken a loan of 500 crore. Since the company has taken a loan of 500 crore, and this is outstanding as on 1st April 2020. So what do? I come to the second table, right? I come to the second table, and in the second table, I will write 500 as the opening balance. And
One small question here.
please.
In case there is a interest component in working capital also, then we have to make a separate calculation.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. So in case if the company also has the working capital, then you will need to make a separate computation on account of working capital. Find out as to what is the working capital for the projection period, and how much is the borrowing for the projection period, what is the rate of interest for the projection period, and using the same table as we are using for the term loan, you would be able to figure out the amount of interest on the working capital, and then combine them together and then plug the combined figure in your profitability statement here. So there is no working capital in this case, so we do not have to worry about the working capital. Okay, is that fine?
Yes.
Good, very good. Now it is given in the case study that the loan is to be repaid in 5 annual installments, right? So obviously what is going to be paid is 100 every year. So I'm just going to drag it for 100 for 5 years. So this is going to be my repayment. So if this is my repayment, what is my closing balance? My closing balance is 500 minus 100. And remember, so it is presumed that this repayment is annual payment. So if it is annual payment, that means it is happening at the end of the year. And if it is happening at the end of the year, I am paying interest on the opening balance for the full year. So what is going to be my interest? My interest is going to be 500 into 0.08. So this is going to be my interest for year 1, and this closing balance of the year 2021 will become the opening balance for 21-22. So this is what I will transport there, and then what I will do, I will drag it for the remaining years, and I will drag this also for the remaining years, and then I will also drag this also, and this will give me the interest for all the 5 years, right? So I have now computed the interest on the term loan. What do I do with this interest on the term loan? Obviously I need to plug it here. So what I do, I transport this interest from here to the profitability computation and drag it, and this is my interest. So I'm able to get my EBT. So when from the EBIT, when I minus the figure of EBT, which is earning before tax, I automatically get the figure of EBT. So 245, which is EBIT, minus 40, which is interest. I get an EBT of 205, and I drag it and then it gives me the EBT for the 5 years. Now remember friends, in real life you will have to do the computation of tax separately, because there are a lot of details involved. We can't talk all those details here, because then the exercise becomes too lengthy and time is limited. Same is the case with the examination also. They will not give you complicated details in respect of anything. They will give you an exercise which may be lengthy but not complicated unnecessarily. So that's why we have assumed that the tax is going to be 25% of the EBT. So what do? I simply make 25% of 205, and that becomes my tax for year 1, and I simply drag it, and this becomes my tax for all the years, and I drag it here for the terminal period. My tax is 0, and my EBT for tax for the terminal period beginning is 539, and my tax for the terminal period is 134.9. So what is my net income? My net income is 205 minus the tax that I am paying. So this becomes my net income, and when I drag it forward, it becomes my net income for all the 5 years of the explicit period, and it also becomes my net income for the terminal period, right? Remember, I need FCFE, I need FCFF for both. I need FCFF for the explicit period, and I need FCFF for the terminal period also. Then only I would be able to do the valuation, as we have discussed so many times. Very good. Okay, so now first
Here it is assumed that there is
yes, Surya.
not the working capital. Am I correct?
Yes, Surya, please go
It
ahead.
is assumed that there is no interest on the working capital.
Absolutely right.
Because the problem is not specifying anything.
No, it is specifying. It is no, Surya, it is specifying. If you read the case carefully, it is mentioned very clearly that company has managed its working capital without borrowing. and it is assumed that it would not resort to borrowing in future also. So it is clearly given in the case study.
So okay, sir. Then
Yeah, it's given. So
clear,
good,
sir.
good. And you know, the case study will always give, because they understand, they will not give you a case study which may involve subjectivity. They have to give a case study which is crystally clear, because they cannot put anything which can be subject to interpretation by two different people, because then then it will be a big challenge. So the case study that you will get in your examination will have all the details, but they may give it to you in a manner that you need to apply your mind. That can happen, but it will not happen that some information is not given and that you have to assume something. No, they will not leave anything for you to assume, because then it's going to be dangerous, because if everybody has to assume, you will never get the uniform answer. So in this case, we have mentioned that there is no working capital loan. Company has managed it with its own resources. Very good, friends. So let's move forward, and now we come to the computation of the FCFF. So let me change this. This should be FCFF, because that is what we are doing. And FCFF, right? So let's use the right terminology and that you will not get confused. So this is what we are doing here. It is coming very correctly. So what do I do? As remember the slide that we saw, what is the starting point? The starting point is the net income. So what I do, I simply go to my profitability statement, pick up the net income and bring it down. And then what I do, the next item that I need to add is my depreciation. So once again, I pick up the depreciation from the profitability. Then what is the next item? The next item is the interest. So what do I do? Again, so I go to the profitability statement, pick up the interest and add it here. Then what is the next item? Then the next item is increase in the net working capital. Okay, so I think the net your working capital at the end of 31st March 2020 was 200 crore, and it is increasing by 10% for the next 5 years. Am I right, Ankit?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay,
Sir.
very good. So that means what? That means what is going to be my change in the working capital? Obviously, since the case is saying clearly that the working capital is going to increase by 10%. So the change is going to be equal to 10% of the working capital. So what is going to be that change? That change is going to be 200 into 10%. So this is the change which is happening in the first year. Then it says it is going to increase by 10% subsequently. So what I can do is I can simply make adjustment to this, and I will say this is going to further increase by 10%. Please correct me if I am wrong. So this is what it is going to be, and then I can simply drag it for next 5 years.
Sir, here it means, sir, increase by 10% means we have an extra working capital will be available with the firm.
Yes.
Excess capital.
Yes.
Which will not be used.
No, Ankit, basically we need to understand what is working capital. So working capital is your inventory, your receivable, your cash and bank balance. So these are your total of all these minus the current liabilities is your working capital or net working capital. So remember, Ankit, if your business is growing, obviously you will need to hold more inventory. You will have more sales, so your receivables also will increase. So it means what? It means your inventory is going to increase, your receivables are going to increase. That means your money, which is going to be locked up in inventory and in receivable, is going to increase. That means so much of your cash is going to be used in the working capital. So that is what is the meaning of increase in NWC.
Sir, but that working capital includes cash. So this should be removed cash and then we have to arrive.
Okay. Venkat, now if you see the case study, it tells you what is your NWC. Very clearly, it is telling you your NWC is 200 crore. And it is telling very clearly that this 200 crore is going to increase by 10% for next 5 years. So,
So
it is,
NWC means it is without cash.
NWC means okay. NWC would not mean without cash, Venkat. Cash is also part of your working capital. So remember,
But formula. Yeah, please. Sorry.
yeah. So remember, what is your working capital? Your working capital is the money which is helping you run your operations on day-to-day basis. So what is helping you? Inventory is helping you, receivables are helping you, and the cash balance that you carry with you for your day-to-day expenses is also helping you. So your working capital will include the cash, of course.
But the formula says you have to remove the cash.
Where does it say?
The increase, decrease in net working capital excluding cash.
Excluding surplus cash.
Yeah, how can you define surplus cash in net working capital?
Yes, I will tell you, Venkat.
One second. For a simple reason, normally net working capital is total current assets minus total current assets net.
Right,
So net working capital means gross current assets minus gross current liabilities.
right.
So where is the question of surplus cash comes in that?
Yes, I will tell you. Venkat, it's like this. You are Maruti. You are Maruti, and that means what is going to be your working capital? Your working capital is that you will have to have 1000 crore in inventory, you will have 500 crore in receivables, and you will have 50 crore for your cash and bank balance to run your operations. But because the profit that you have earned, you have a cash balance of 300 crore. So out of this 300 crore of the cash balance, how much is for your working capital? 50 crore. So the balance to 50 crore which is lying with you is the surplus cash. That means this surplus cash of 250 crore is not contributing, is not helping you in your operations. So that is why you have to exclude the surplus cash. And in this example, we have not assumed anything as surplus cash. In this next study,
Once again.
yeah. Hello.
Can you please explain once again?
Okay. Yes, Kamal. Which point?
This is point, the surplus cash.
Okay. Now, Kamal, please pay attention here once again. You are Maruti. Okay. And what your working capital will comprise of? As Maruti, your working capital will comprise of number one, inventory, number two, receivable, and I'm talking about the current assets. So you will have inventory, you will have receivables, and of course you will need to have some cash and bank balance also as part of your working capital. Let's say based on your experience, you will have 1000 crore in inventory, you will have 500 crore in your receivables, and you will need 50 crore as cash to run your operations.
Yes.
So, but in your bank balance, because of the profit that you have made or because of your operations, your bank balance, you are having 300 crores.
Okay.
So, is this 300 crore is your part of your working capital? Answer is no. What of this 300 crore, how much are you using for your operations? Only 50 crore.
50 crores.
Yeah, so 50 crore becomes part of your working capital. The remaining 250 crore is surplus cash. This 250 crore is not contributing to your operations. So therefore it has to be excluded.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Very good. All right, friends. So now capex 0. So I will write 0 so that we have a clarity. So there is no capex for all the in this case. And then what I do, I simply drag all these numbers, and when I drag all these numbers, this is what I will get. So there is no interest in any case. There is no increase. So remember, increase stops in the working capital in the 5th year. So for the terminal period, there is no increase in the working capital. So it will be 0, and capex is also going to be 0. Now what I need to do, I just need to sum it up so as to get my FCFF. So
So that should be changed.
yeah, I will change, Venkat. Thank you so much. It just I noticed as you noticed it. Thank you so much. This is what I have changed. Thank you. And I would drag it here. It has come at many places. We'll change it everywhere. So sometimes, in the flow, it happens. Okay. So this, friends, is your FCFF. And I would like to ask all of you, in case you don't respond, I will assume that you have understood how this figure of FCFF has been arrived. Devang?
Tax should not be deducted for the interest portion.
No, it should not be deducted for the interest portion.
Because PAT you have taken, na? It will be full.
Yeah,
Or-
actually, since you have taken the PAT, which is coming after making adjustment on the figure of interest also, therefore you do not have to make any adjustment. This is the amount which is available. Devang, look at it this way. Forget rest of the things. Look at it this way. This is the amount which is available for all the stakeholders, isn't it?
Right.
So isn't the interest of full 40 is available for all the stakeholders, or it is interest minus tax which is available? It is the full amount which is available. So no adjustment required. This is what you will take. Full interest you take as it is.
Okay, if it's PBT you have to take, if it's PAT you don't have to take. Right?
And okay, Devang, I will tell you, always keep it very simple. The process that we are following, just keep that process in your mind. There is absolutely no need to deviate, for the simple reason, because the moment you start looking at two things, it is quite possible that when I explain to you, you will understand now. But when you are sitting in front of the computer writing the exam, it is quite possible that you might get confused at that time. So let us follow the simple plain process, and the simple plain process is from the PBTU minus the tax, and then you get the figure of net income. Based on that, you calculate your free cash flow for the firm.
Yeah, but sir, basically,
Yeah.
hello?
Yes, Venkat. Yes,
The
Venkat.
numbers. Yeah, okay, fine.
Sir, basically this is EBIT plus or minus net working capital plus or minus capex.
Venkat, should I tell you? It is what you are seeing in front of you.
Sir, EBIT.
No, Venkat. Just understand it the way it is being explained. Don't connect it in any way. I tell you why. I have no problem. I will explain to you definitely. But then later on you might get confused. Oh, this is that, or this is this. So that should not happen. And remember, in front of the computer when you are sitting, time is your gold. Time is diamond for you. So that time you should not spend any time. This is simple, clear-cut method. Follow it and you will hit it. I am telling you. Okay.
Sir, I have one question here.
Please, Surya.
Sir, you have 1,000 crores worth of your non-current assets.
Okay.
The return down value of non-current assets as on 31st of March 2020
Yeah.
is 1,000 crores.
Correct. Very good.
Out of that, 100 crores is not a company has a plot of vacant plot,
Right.
plot
Mhm.
of land
Mhm.
in Maharashtra.
Mhm.
The book is 100 crores
Mhm.
and the current estimated market value is 200.
Right.
Whatever the cash flow is being generated,
Mm-hmm.
if you consider, you say the surplus needs to be removed in the
Right.
cash.
Right.
This 100 crores, which is invested in land, it is not generating any cash flow to the firm.
Right.
Even the depreciation that you have considered for 1,000,
No. See, it is land. On land, there is no depreciation.
the land there is no depreciation.
Yeah. On land, there is no depreciation.
Yes, sir. No depreciation.
Yes.
Okay.
Sir, can you check the numbers? There is some error.
Please tell me.
Yeah, 2021, if I'll add up 150, 340, then the amount of FCHC should be 273. Why is 313?
You mean to this figure?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Okay, see, you have to see, what you're doing. So this is your net income plus depreciation
Yeah, 253.
plus interest minus the increase in working capital.
Minus the
So,
Yeah.
okay, and who I think you must clap for him because what he is saying is absolutely right, and this is what we need to be always careful. Thank you so much for that correction. I really appreciate. So this is what we always need to take care. Otherwise, we make a error. And fantastic, very good, excellent, absolutely excellent.
Sir, my question
So
is
are you?
what I understood.
Oh, 1 minute, Surya. Just give me a second. Is this clear now? 273 and
Yeah. All the numbers will be changed.
thank you so much, Ritesh.
Kamal.
Kamal, thank you, Kamal. Oh yes, Surya, please come.
No, in fact, the 1,000 crores includes this 100 or what? That's only.
No, it does not. That 100 is separate. This 1,000 is separate.
Okay.
So this 100.
You take 900 undepreciated.
Okay, Surya, I will tell you. It's like this. I have understood your doubt.
Correct or not?
I have understood your doubt, Surya. Let me explain to you. Remember, 1,000 crore is the NCA return down value.
Value of fixed assets.
Yeah, and this does not include 100 crore of the vacant plot lying somewhere. This is only depreciable amount, and it does not include that 100 crore here. That 100 crore will need to be adjusted at later stage, not now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, very good, friends. All right, fantastic. So now let's move, and so we need to find out the cash flow for the terminal period. Please remember this 504.71 that you see here, every one of you. This is the cash flow at the beginning of the terminal period. Now we need to convert this in terms of the cash flow for the whole terminal period. How do we do it? So I'm sure all of you would remember. So I will take this figure of the cash flow at the beginning of the terminal period and divide it by my cost of equity, but I don't know what is my cost of equity, isn't it? So since I do not know what is my cost of equity, I cannot do anything at this point in time. I need to go and calculate my cost of equity before I come here. So I leave it at the moment and I come to computation of my cost of capital. I need to calculate my cost of capital. All right. So here I am calculating the cost of capital. So my cost of interest is given. Effective cost of rate is 6%. Ankit, is that right?
right.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Sanjay, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Kamal, is that right? Venkat, is that right? Okay, so since they are not saying anything, I am assuming that it is 6%, which is right. Okay, now I need to find out my cost of equity because we all know it very well. For finding out valuation using future cash flow for the firm, we need to discount it by the WACC, weighted average cost of capital, and I can have my WACC only if I know my cost of debt and my cost of equity. I know my cost of debt, which is 6%. Interest rate is 8%, but I am saving tax on account of interest. So my effective interest rate is 6%. That is my cost of debt. I do also need to find out what is my cost of equity. Cost of equity I will find out using the CAPM model. So let's come here, and the information has been given to me. My risk-free rate is 7%. Ankit, correct me if I'm wrong. And my beta is 1.5. My market return is 12%. And when I put all this information into the CAPM model, I get a cost of equity of 14.5%. Is that right, everyone?
Right.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic.
Yes, yes.
Excellent. Excellent. So now I know what is my cost of cost of capital. What is my WACC? So my WACC is now I will find out my WACC. And how do I find it out? I will find it out by calculating my WACC. So I need to go to another table. Now this is the table for computation of WACC. So how do I calculate my WACC? WACC is weighted average cost of capital. What is the meaning of weighted average cost of capital? The meaning of weighted average cost of capital is all the sources that you have in your capital structure. Find out what is the cost of them individually. Club it together. Club together the capital structure. Divide the total capital or divide the total cost of capital by the amount of capital. That will give you your weighted average cost of capital, that is WACC. So this is what we will find out. Now, what is my equity? I don't know. So can somebody tell me how much is my equity?
100.
Everyone. 100?
Yes, sir.
Is it 100?
100.
Are you sure?
Yes, yes.
Okay, please remember it is not 100. Now we need to find out the equity. So how do I find out the equity? And I'm sure there's a table which, okay. So how do I find out my equity share capital? So this is the table number 5 that you see on the screen. This is to find out the amount of equity share capital. How will I find out? First I need to know what is my return down value of the non-current assets. How much it is? 1,000. Then I need to know what is my net working capital. How much it is? 200. Then I also need to find out how much is the amount of the vacant plot which is lying in Ranjangaon in Maharashtra. Do I have to ignore that or do I have to take that also into account? I have to take that also into account because that is part of my balance sheet. It is lying somewhere unutilized, not contributing to my operations, perfectly fine. But it is part of my balance sheet. So I have to add that plot also, which is 100. Are you all with me? Devang, are you?
From the question, how do you find out whether it's included in the net working non-fixed asset or it's a part of it?
Is you know what it is? It is your plot lying vacant somewhere.
Right.
Can it be out of the balance sheet?
No, it's not. I thought 1,000 would include 100, cannot include 100.
It will not include 100 because 1,000 is what? 1,000 is return down value of depreciable non-current assets. Land, remember, land is not depreciable. 1,000 crore that you have is your return down value. So when you say return down value, it implies it is depreciable. Are you with me, Devang?
Right, I got it. Because
Absolutely.
So that was the trick.
Absolutely. See, remember, you have to grasp it, all these points actually. And see, that is where your conceptual understanding is really going to help you in solving all these cases. So what you have a total amount of investment which is coming to 1,300. Kamal, is that fine?
Sir, net working capital means net current assets minus current liabilities.
Okay. So the definition, Ankit, of net working capital is working capital. Net working capital is equal to current assets minus current liabilities. So that is the definition of your net working capital. And just for your benefit, how do you calculate it? First, you take your current assets. What are your current assets? Inventory is your current asset. Receivable is your current assets. Cash and bank balance is your current asset. So take the total of all these three, and from this you minus the payables. And what you get in your hand, payables and the current liabilities, what you get in your hand is your net working capital. So net working capital is basically current assets minus current liabilities.
Okay, sir.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Good. So now you know what is your investment. It is 1,300. And please remember, and I'm sure you will remember, I had discussed it with you some time back. What is your capital employed and what is your investment? Your capital employed is money that you bring into the business, and investment is what you do with this money. And I'm sure you will recollect, and Devang, I'm sure you would be definitely clear about it. What is the figure of investment and the figure of capital employed will always be the same. Any balance sheet that you pick up anywhere in the world, the figure of capital employed and the figure of investment will always be the same. So meaning what? Investment is equal to capital employed. What is capital employed? Debt plus equity. Capital employed is debt plus equity. Capital employed is debt plus equity. So if I have the figure of capital employed, if I have the figure of debt, can I find out the figure of equity? Yes. From the capital employed, if I minus the figure of debt, I will get the figure of equity. Please remember, equity here does not mean equity share capital. Equity here means net worth. That means equity here means equity share capital plus reserves and surplus. Okay. Now, from the equity, if I know the figure of equity, and from the figure of equity, if I minus the figure of reserves and surplus, will I get the figure of equity share capital, Sanjay?
Yes.
Yes, of course. Definitely, right? So now solve this. So my total capital employed is same as investment, which is 1300. And what do? I minus the debt from here. How much is the debt, Ankit? 500. 500. So how much is my equity, or you can also call it as net worth, just for your information. So your equity and your net worth, both the things are same. And my net worth is how much? 800. How much is my reserve? So
600.
is given to you. So 600.
600.
So that means how much is my equity? 200, right? So this is how you get your figure of equity share capital. Now we can find out the WACC. So what is my equity share capital? 200. How much is my reserves? 600. And how much is my loan amount? 500. So the cost of equity is 14.5%. And remember, cost of equity is same for the equity share capital and for reserves and surplus. Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Surya?
Yeah.
Right, isn't it? Because equity share capital is shareholders' money, reserves and surplus is also shareholders' money. So both money are from my pocket. So the cost cannot be same. It has to be, cost cannot be different. It has to be same. So now what I have done the computation of my WACC. And when I've done my computation of my WACC is coming 11.23%. Everybody, are you all with me? Everyone.
Yes.
Sanjay, Anil,
Yes, sir.
Kamal. So this is how you will find out your WACC. Now that I have my WACC, I can go up and come to and find out what is my total cash flow for the terminal period. How do I find it out? I come to this place, right? I come to this place. I'm at table number 3. Come to this place, put an equal sign, select the figure of cash flow for the terminal year, and divided it by, I'm sure you would remember, KE minus G. Do you remember, Sanjay?
Yes.
So KE is how much?
11.23.
Absolutely. So 0.1123 is my cost of capital, or WACC in this case, and my G is how much?
-0.06.
Minus 0.6. So when I will divide it, and this is the amount of my terminal cash flow. So this is the amount of my terminal cash flow. That means for the entire terminal period, this is supposed to be the cash that I would generate from the company. Okay. Now what I need to do? So I need the
Show me the VAT calculation once again.
Sure, of course. Here it is.
146 is divided by total capital. Total
Yeah.
capital is
Total 1300.
Okay, sir.
This is your total capital. This is the cost of the capital. So cost of capital divided by the capital is 11.23%.
Fine, sir.
So this becomes your WACC.
Okay.
Sir, this balance sheet I prepared for 1920. This balance sheet which we derived
Yeah.
is a 1920, not 2021, no?
This is okay. See, now you are making these projections for 2021 and onwards. Okay. So
this is,
yes,
so this
Sanjay.
is at the beginning. Sir, this is at the beginning of the year, no?
Yeah, beginning of the year. Yes, beginning of the year.
Sir, one more question. The process which I adopted in the case number 3 and 4, what we have done, we done in the zero year free cash flow. Then what we have done, multiply the PV factor. But in this case, we have separately calculated. So I am just
No.
in this.
No, Sanjay. Earlier also we have done the same way as we are doing it. You can just have a relook at tomorrow, and if you still have the doubt, please ask me. So the process that is to be followed, it has to be same. It cannot be different. All right. So don't worry about it. Just revisit them tomorrow, and we will look at your doubt in case if it is still there. Okay. But remember, this is how it is to be done. It is because you are doing the calculations for the year starting from 2021, and so your process starts from 2021. So the calculation has to be done at the beginning of 20 based on the figure at the beginning of the 2021. So that is what it is. All right. Now let's go and how do we find? Yes, Anil.
Sir, in this question, the debt equity ratio is not coming to be 2:1. It is very the debt is very less. So we have to make any adjustment for that.
No, not at all, Anil. And that's a good doubt, good question that you are asking, and I think I will respond. Please remember, debt equity ratio of 2:1 is not a rule.
Yeah.
It's not a rule. It's not that you will have to turn your figures in terms of 2:1. No. So it's not necessary. If it is, as a matter of fact, many cases, if your debt equity ratio is less than 2:1, it is better. So you will find lot of companies all over the world whose debt equity ratio is far too less than 2:1. Perfectly fine. So you do not have to make any adjustment on account of that.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, it's absolutely not to worry about it in this case at all.
Okay.
All right, very good. So let's move forward, and now I need to know my free cash flow for firm. So this is my free cash flow for the firm for first year, second year, for third year, fourth year, fifth year, and for the terminal year. For the terminal year, it is going to be, as you can see here, this is for the terminal period. So this is my cash flow for the explicit period and also for the terminal period, entire period. Now what I need to do, I need to find out the present value investment factor. Please remember, some people call it present value investment factor, some people call it present value discounting factor, some people call it simply present value factor. Doesn't really matter, they all mean the same thing. So how will I find out the discounting factor for the first year? I'm sure you will remember 1 divided by Anil, please tell me, divided by how much? 1.1123.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay. For the second year, what do I do? Just pick up the figure, discount figure of first year.
Divided by 1.13.
Absolutely. Divided by 1.1123.
123.
Is that right? Ankit, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Very good. Excellent. And I'm sure you will remember the discount factor for the terminal period is same as the discount factor of the last year. So
0.585.
absolutely right. Now what do? I simply multiply it. So this into the discount factor. This is my present value for the first year. This is my present value of free cash flow for firm for the first year. And what do? I will drag it to get it for all the periods. So this is my present value for the explicit period of 5 years and plus the terminal period. So the total of these 5 years is how much? 1272.23. So this 1272.23 is the present value of the explicit period. Venkat, is that fine?
I have a query.
Surya, is that fine?
I have a question, sir.
Okay, sure. So I'll first take the question of Devang and then I'll come to Surya. Yes, Devang.
Yeah, cost of capital does not change throughout the year because your debt is going down. And
No. Cost of capital is at the beginning of the your period, and the same cash flow is to be used throughout. So you do not have to change. You do not have to change the cost of capital for every year. No.
The problem there itself.
Huh?
I got it. I was going wrong with the problem there itself.
Okay. See, that is the reason I replied to you saying that is it to be calculated for all the years actually. All right. Okay. So your question is answered, Devang.
I got it.
Very good. Surya, please go ahead.
No, again, that's my question is also that.
Okay.
The cost of capital you have taken only on combined cost of capital that you have taken for 1920.
Right.
But what is the rationale behind it?
See the.
Because we can prepare a projected cash flow. Because ultimately the combined cost of capital we are arriving for terminal value. If you prepare the projected balance sheet, you can take that combined capital based on 24-25.
Okay. See what I will.
Sir, you got my question.
Yeah, I got your question, Surya. I got your.
We can prepare a projected profit and loss account balance sheet.
Yeah,
because all the numbers are available.
See, I got your question, Surya. I got your question. But remember, this is how it is done. This is a standard way of doing it globally. So, if it is a standard way of doing it globally, it's better that we follow, because if you keep on changing the discount rate every year, what I can suggest is you can try and do the computation independently following the attempt to change the discount cash flow and see as to whether you really come to a figure which you can depend on. So do it this exercise and it will give you a feeling, and you would realize no, what the globe is following, we have to follow the same thing. See, please remember, when you are doing all these exercises, as I had mentioned some time back, Surya, you are not projecting the future. You are only trying to make use of the number for the purpose of decision making. So long as you are using what is being done globally, and so long as what you are doing it consistently, then you will come to an answer which is dependable and reliable, and that is what is required. So please.
You want to say that the 1920 is the finished number because the number is audited. We need not go this projection. We can take it.
Absolutely.
Budgeting and valuation are two different things, right?
Say it again, Devang.
Capital budgeting theory and valuation are two different things.
Capital budgeting and.
He's calculating the COC differently now.
No. COC, why you say we have calculated it is going to be same in both the cases, no difference.
What we normally do for capital budgeting and valuation have two different theories, right?
No, same theory. In case of capital budgeting also you will do the same thing. See, I can understand, Devang, where is your confusion coming? Because ultimately, even when you are doing capital budgeting, always be careful which cash flow you are taking. Are you taking the cash flow for the firm or you are taking the cash flow for the equity? So depending on what cash flow you are taking, because if you are taking the so see, invariably when you are doing the capex, when you're doing capex planning, Devang, invariably you will take cash flow for the equity. And since you will take the, because why will you take the cash flow for the equity? Because you're doing capex planning, which is for ultimately for the shareholders benefit. So you would look at the cash flow which is available for the shareholders. So in case of capex planning, you would always, and you should always look at the FCFE. And when you look at the FCFE, you do not have to take the WACC. You only have to take the cost of equity.
Okay, I got it.
But even there also, please remember, cost of equity you will take at the beginning and use the same cost of equity for the entire period. You will not keep on changing the cost of equity for every year. No, it is computed once and used for the entire period.
Okay. I was going wrong there.
All right. No, perfect. Okay, friends. So,
Here in 34th column,
Uh-huh.
you have written amount of FCFF, and when the present value of FCFE. This is a clerical error only, I think.
not clerical.
It should be a FCFF.
Ankit, not clerical. It is a typographical error. It is a typographical error.
It should be FC.
FCFF.
Okay.
FC. I have corrected
Yes.
actually. I have corrected.
Sir,
Yeah,
sir,
see,
in this
okay, I think it's coming many places. So let me correct it now here also. Okay, thank you so much, Ankit, for that correction. Okay, yes, Anil, please go ahead.
Sir, in this question, we are making valuation in the month of July. Suppose we are making valuation in the month of December or January, will there be any impact on like cost of capital for like instead of taking for the entire 12 months, we have to take for 9 months or 10 months?
Okay, see now it will depend on the valuation date. And what I have done, I have corrected. I have said the valuation date is going to be 1st April. So
Okay.
the valuation date here is 1st April, not 1st July. So, and remember, whenever we are doing valuation, it will have a specific valuation date. So that means the value is as on that date. So we are doing this valuation, assuming this value is as of 1st April 2020.
So even if it is in the month of December, the cost of capital will be for the entire year.
Yeah, that's a good point. So tell me, Anil, what it should be.
Sir,
If-
actually, I'm having some confusion because in some books I have seen that they are taking for the period proportionate basis on month-wise basis.
No, actually, I will answer that question. See, your computations are linked with the valuation date.
Yeah.
So any reference rate that you use, it has to be based on the valuation date, and that is the reason why you are supposed to take the valuation date. Valuation date is very, very crucial. It has to be mentioned. So if you are, let's say for example, if the valuation date is 1st October, so then you will need to take the calculations into account based on the 1st October.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that adjustment will have to be made in your computations. So which means
Okay.
so
In this-
that means Anil, what I am saying is, if your valuation date is 1st October.
Mhm.
Okay. If your valuation date is 1st October, then your cost of equity, your WACC, will have
Yeah.
to be based on the 1st October. That is the significance, or that is the significance of your valuation date.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Ankit.
Yes, sir. In this case study, if we do calculation of valuation date as on 1st October,
That's what
then
I
sir,
s-
what will be the impact? What
Yeah.
will be its impact, sir?
The
Here.
impact is for calculating your WACC. You will need to look at your cost of equity and cost of debt as it may be applicable on 1st October.
Rates may be different, sir, than it.
Generally, they will not be changed, really speaking, because between a period of 6 months, your WACC or your cost of equity is not going to change dramatically, but theoretically there may be minor change. So if there's a minor change, you make the calculations based on that minor change. If you are changing the period to 1st October, and that is the significance of the valuation date. All right. So friends, let's move forward now. So this is the figure that you see here. 1272 is the present value of the explicit period, and this is your present value of free cash flow for firm. This is for your terminal period, and this is for your explicit period. And now what we need to do, we need to add the two figures. Is that right?
Right.
Okay, so you add these two figures. No, wait a minute. So no. So this is your present value of the cash flows during the explicit period, and this is the present value. This is your present value of the cash flow during the terminal period. So you got these two figures. Now let's go to the next table, and now we come to this table. So this is done. Now we come to this table actually. So how do you find out the enterprise value? So please remember, enterprise value is total of present value of explicit period plus the present value of terminal period. So what we do, we write here present value for the explicit period, and we write here present value for the terminal period. And now we may need to make some adjustments. Surya, here you have to make the adjustment. So this plot of land which is lying in Ranjangaon, Maharashtra, it is not reflecting in your discounted cash flow calculations.
Yeah.
So we need to add it here, because that plot is not reflecting in your calculations, but it is your asset, so it has to be added to your enterprise value. So how much should I write here, everybody?
200.
I will write here 200. What is the book value of the land?
100.
100. Everybody?
Yes, sir.
Right? So the book value is 100, but I am doing the valuation today, and today the value is 200. So I will not take the book value. For the purpose of calculating my enterprise value, I will take the figure of 200.
But if there is a surplus cash, it will come here.
Excellent, Venkat. Excellent. You have hit on the nail. The example that we were discussing earlier, when we talk about the cash balance of 300 crore with Maruti, out of his 50 crore was for the operations, 250 crore was to the surplus cash. If that question, if that point, Venkat, was to be part of your case study, then you will add that 250 crore of surplus cash here. I hope everybody understands that.
Right.
Devang, does it make sense to you?
Right, yeah.
Anil?
makes sense.
Anil?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ritesh? All right.
sir.
Very good.
So this value of land, while calculating the cost of equity, we have taken the discounting factor. The value of land, 100 crore, we have taken when we are calculating cost of equity.
Say it again. 100 what?
So this book value of the vacant land, while calculating the cost of equity, when we arrive at the figure, it's the reserve and surplus and equity value. In that time we have taken into consideration the 100 crore.
Yeah. So that time, Anil, I took it into account. That time, Anil, I took into account for arriving at my equity share capital figure.
Yeah, so with that we have taken the weighted average, no?
So,
That figure,
but okay, you have taken a weighted average. You have to take it weighted average with your total capital. For taking your weighted average cost of capital, for calculating your WACC, you have to take the total equity. And in the case study, the figure of equity share capital is not given explicitly, so you have to derive it. And we have derived it. We have derived it by finding out what is the total investment. So when I get the total investment, by default I come to what is my total capital employed. And when I come to my total capital employed, I know what is my capital employed. It is debt plus equity. So from the
it is not reflected.
It is what?
Getting the cost of basically. So that's why we are making adjustment separately.
No, Anil, can you repeat your question, please?
No, I understood, sir. I got it. Sir. Thank you.
Very good, very good, very good. All right. So now remember, the plot today is worth 200. So that means if I have to calculate the enterprise value, I will add 200. Venkat, coming back to you once again. If Maruti's point was to be here, and if this 250 crore of surplus cash was to lie with this company, that 250 crore of surplus cash will also be added here. But that is not for this company. Hence, we do not have to make that adjustment. But all of you, please remember, if it was to be, then surplus cash will also be added here. Logic is same. Please pay attention. Logic is same. As the land is surplus, not contributing to the operations, it has to be added. Same is the case with the surplus cash. 250 crore of this cash lying with the company, it is not contributing to the DCF calculation. So therefore, you would have added it actually, and that is what you should remember.
So basically, to arrive the cost of capital to the equity, we have to add the book value of the land, because that includes the investment made in the land, which is non-operating income, non-operating asset.
Yeah.
Whereas to arrive at the enterprise value, we should take the market value.
Absolutely, Venkat. Absolutely. All right, friends. So now what we do, we add it together, and this is what you get your enterprise value. So this is your enterprise value, 7140.22. Now, how do I find out the equity value? Equity value is equal to enterprise value minus the value of debt. So what do? I take the figure of enterprise value, as you can see on the screen. From the figure of enterprise value, I will minus the figure of value of debt, and the difference is my value of equity. Now, how do I find out the value per share? So how do I find out the value per share? Someone is
One small question.
yes.
Not any treatment to reserve and surplus here.
Okay, what treatment we should give? Please tell me.
This is also the money which is lying with me.
Okay, Kamal, please pay attention. Reserves and surplus, please remember, is not that so much of money is lying with the company. Reserve and surplus simply means over the years, this company has earned profit. Out of that profit, part of the profit has been distributed to the shareholders as dividend, and remaining profit has been plowed back into the business. And plowed back meaning what? Meaning the balance money has been used for expansion program, growth program, diversification program. So that is, so reserves and surplus, remember. Okay, so I think once you speak, you can put yourself on the mute mode. Otherwise, it starts speaking. So does it answer your question, Kamal?
Yes, this is also.
Right. So reserves and surplus, please remember, is only a paper figure. Reserves and surplus does not mean so much of money is lying with the company. It only says that so much of profit has been plowed back.
Okay.
And plowed back meaning what? That money is reflecting in the assets of the company.
I got that.
All right. Okay. Very good. Fantastic. All right. So value per share. How do we calculate? Equity value divided by the number of shares. So we need to find out the number of shares. How do we find out the number of shares? The equity share capital divided by the number of shares. So the equity share capital, as you all know now, is 200 crores, and the face value as given in the case is rupees 10. So the number of equity shares this company has is 20 crores. So how do I find out the value of the company share? Is equity value 6,640.22 crores divided by 20 crores. So my equity per value per equity share comes to 332.01. So this is how, friends, you will find out the value of equity share. You will find out the enterprise value of a company and make all these adjustments using the discounted cash flow method and using the free cash flow for the firm. Thank you.